most #1 requested. That's what people want to see when they hear about Brownsville. That's the #1 thing they want to see is the Mindfield. And it's a controversy in the city. Some people don't understand it and don't like it, and others see it, you know, as a work of art.
The Mindfield attracts a lot of attention from people visiting Brownsville.
It's a great piece of work for the tourism business in Haywood County. I have people come from everywhere. All my industrial prospects, they're kind of amazed when they come to the chamber and they'll say, "What is that?" And I'll say, "That's the Mindfield." And talk about our friend Billy Tripp. And they said, "Well, it's something else." Well, they're always going to go down and take a look at it before they leave. Some of them like it, some of them think, "I don't know what it is." And I said, "Well, you know, that's no different than anybody else around here. You know, we don't know what it is. So we don't know what it is. It's what it is. It's the Mindfield. It's out of Billy's mind. You have to ask him."
It's a huge attraction for Brownsville because we have visitors from all over that come here just to see that Mindfield. And of course, Billy's known all over the world, and a lot of people are not aware of that.
The Mindfield, the Billy Tripp experience in Brownsville is one that obviously meets with a lot of different emotions, a lot of different opinions. But I think that people who understand the journey that Billy is taking with this particular piece of artwork is one that we all respect and admire and look forward to it continuing to be a journey for Billy.
A lot of people travel over here and they pass by here, they're curious about that. What is that? That's how they pull in, and they end up staying with us. They, instead of asking Billy Tripps, they come to me and asking, "Hey, what is that? Are you building ones?" So what I've come up with that, and I tell them as much as I know, what I learned from Publix and Billy Tripps, it's my pleasure to tell them. And there's a lot of people comes from all over in the United States, plus Europe as well. They greatly appreciate that. They're seeing something different than this world.
Yeah, we have lots of people come in asking what it is and who done it and everything. And well, we just tell them that, I mean, he's got a different habit or hobby, and that he's got lots of money, and I mean, and just puts it into that. And I'm sure everything's got meaning behind it, which we don't know what it is, but.
We had a visitor here who was an art director on Bull Durham, as a matter of fact. And he even said that as a work of art, this is probably as good as the Watchtowers out in LA.
Folks, there are some folks in the community who don't think the Mindfield speaks very well of the community, but regardless whether you like it or you don't like it, most everybody's got an opinion about the Mindfield.
As far as this being a work of art, I personally believe, and don't take offense to the builder of this, but I personally believe it's a total eyesore. And I don't know how the city of Brownsville even allows this to be here.
I think it's pretty nice, you know, pretty ingenious for one man to do all this sculpture by himself. You know?
I think it's pretty amazing. My assumption is that it was made from scrap, but I don't know that. We were hoping that we could find out. And I don't know if there was a reason or if it was kind of like I had a dream and just decided one day I was going to wake up and make something out of scrap metal, or so I don't really know. I think it's pretty cool.
People that know Billy personally, you know, and admire his work, understand, and they understand a lot of the things, the signs and things that he puts up. A lot of times people will see some of the signs and they assume whatever. And personally, I've talked to a lot of those people, and I'll ask them, I'll say, "Well, have you ever talked to Billy about it?" "No." I said, "Well, you ought to talk to Billy about it and ask him, because it probably doesn't mean what you think it means."
This is a deeply religious community, and I think people are turned off, and they've said that they're turned off by it, but that's a clash of values. That's not an unusual situation.
Among my age group, people don't really discuss this that much. I think mostly adults talk about it, but yeah, if they did see it, a lot of people would be offended or outraged about it, but I don't necessarily know if that's justified. They need to be that offended about it.
I have a totally different idea of the Mindfield than I used to. I used to drive by it and didn't really have an opinion on it, just kind of wondered, why is this here? And then at one point, almost started to become offended by it. Some of the artwork, it kind of messes with you, if you will, for lack of a better phrase. It teases you. And that's one thing for an adult, but when you've got a 6-year-old in the car with you and they want to know what that means, and it's right in the middle of town, it puts you in a situation. So I guess there was a time where I came a little irritated about it. And was it fair that this monstrosity, I guess, could be right in the middle of our little town? But in the last few months, I had the privilege of touring the Mindfield with Billy Tripp as the narrator. And when I walked with a group in the community, a leadership class, and we walked up into the center of it, and you look up, and you know, he'll tell you if you clap, the birds will fly. And it was just kind of a magical moment. I looked up, and in a weird way, I almost felt like I was in a cathedral. It was just kind of, you realize that this was really a beautiful sculpture. So then when he explains to you that, you know, what I took away from it, other than some things that are about it are maybe a little offensive or, you know, not appropriate for children or whoever, to me, it's the love that he has for his parents and his family. And he shared a story about when he lost his dad, he had a hard time coping. And that's when he began to build that water tower. And I too lost my dad. So I totally could understand the grief that he felt, and that was the way he got it out.
It's the best art project I ever seen in my whole entire life.
They're saying that, you know what, who's doing that? They would love to see that that person's. If he's not available, they try to leave a note for them, some kind of comment. He has a comment box over here.
When people from another town come, they think that Mindfield is like, wow. And I think, unfortunately, I'm sorry, I think some people here just take it for granted or don't stop to take time to understand it or appreciate it.
If you just sit there and look at it, it's the detail in it is, and what goes into it is truly amazing.
People who don't know much about it, they're gonna say anything about it. I mean, they're just not giving their really thought about that.
A lot of people look at the Mindfield and they're very confused. I think that that's part of the beauty of it. I think that you interpret in that piece of art what you see it and what you see in it, and oftentimes you interject your own personal experiences into the art, as art, in my opinion, should be. It should be a reflection and an interpretation of your own experience, your life experience. The Mindfield certainly gives the citizens of Brownsville and indeed the worldwide people worldwide who appreciate that particular form of art, it gives them the opportunity to come, observe, interpret, interpolate, interact with the art itself. It is extremely interactive. You can walk in and through it and around it, and I don't know that you can go up it, but you can certainly go around and through it. It is Billy's gift of himself, not only to Brownsville but to the world and to those of us that love him and look forward to his continued work. It is a life work in progress. It is my understanding it will never end. It will end at the end of his life. But we look forward to, it's kind of fun. Every once in a while, every few months, you'll go by and you'll see something else starting to form. And one thing I really love about the piece, and I'm not an expert in that particular art form, but it has no end. It doesn't cut itself off. It reaches upward and outward and crosswise. It intersects and parallels and conflicts, which of course is a definition of life and the journey of life. But it doesn't close itself off. It ever reaches upward and outward, ever expanding. And we can all hope and pray that our lives can be defined that way.
I love Mindfield. I love the way it has the symbolism in it, but I really enjoy the positive and negative space, all the lines and angles.
You know, even if you said it was a monstrosity, it attracts attention.
If this was on his own personal property, on a farm somewhere, and it's an expression of his ideals, it'd be a great thing. I just think in the middle of a metropolis or small town as this is, it's not the place for it.
It's a good conversation piece.
I wouldn't have a problem with my children going through it and looking at it. I thought it was so interesting and so beautiful just to kind of stand up in it. It was life-changing, it really was.
Since I've been here and I've been looking at it, and I had a chance, opportunity to catch him build the round spirit part of it, you know, and I saw him actually from the ground up, and wow, I thought that was pretty amazing for a man. You know, he welded, he craned it, he brought it in, you know, and from my other opinions, from other folks that I've talked to, you know, just by chance, you know, said they thought it was remarkable too, which it is. For one man to do by himself, come on.
My first observation and experience with the Mindfield was one day after I got my driver's license. I'm up here looking around, and I look over and I see this metal assembled kind of in a little draw between buildings. I said, I never noticed that before, and I didn't know what was going on. I thought, what a pile of junk, and what's going on here? And then maybe a couple years later, I think it was about the time this part of this fire tower came about, and said, man, I'd love to have something like that for my place. And then I began to recognize it was indeed an art piece. But it was several years growing on me before I recognized I'm an engineer, I'm a hunter. I don't really have a lot of artistic bent since maybe the 7th grade, but it did finally occur to me after looking at this and being amazed at it at first that it was even tolerated, that it was indeed a piece of art, and I've come to appreciate it and love it and take a good gaze at it every time I can.
Some people look at the Mindfield and they look at it as a bunch of scrap iron, but I look at it as fabrication. Billy looks at it like art. So the combination of the fabrication, building, and ideas, of course Billy never stops. His ideas keep growing toward the sky, but that's okay. Some people look at it as scrap iron. He looks at it like art. I look at it like putting something together and making it work.
Art is, I guess, in the eyes of the beholder, and I don't see it as art. I'm sorry.
And what a lot of folks don't realize is that the Mindfield is the story of Billy's life in metal.
The Mindfield is obviously an extension of Billy's personality, who he is.
As Bill says, this is a conglomeration of his life. As his life goes on, it grows, and other events trigger things in it.
Again, I say, if you get to know Billy and you understand, it's amazing. Just like the Mindfield, all the different things that he's got down there, they mean something. And if you stop and talk to him, he'll tell you what they mean. But I go down there sometimes just and spend some time and just walk around and look, because you can look and look and then look again, you see something you didn't see before. You know, it's amazing, but I love it.
I do mention the Mindfield in my community resource book that I send to prospects and different people, because it is something that people need to see. And it is what it is. We have some folks that don't like it. Some people love it. You'll find that the majority of people, I think, that don't care for it are kind of like me. It's maybe some of the wording. But on a national scale, people come from everywhere to look at the Mindfield. You know, he's a pretty famous guy, to tell you the truth.
I think people do find it interesting. I think I've heard people say that once they have gotten to know him, they had a much, much better understanding.
I've had people who have come to town and thought it was an electrical substation until they looked at it. And then they've, once they've been told it's not an electrical substation, that it's a metal sculpture. But I mean, I've had a call from a lady who was complaining about it, and
and I asked her what her complaints were, and she told me, did I realize that the Barbie dolls on the statue had pierced nipples? And I said, ma'am, I can't hardly tell that they're Barbie dolls. I said, how can you tell that they have pierced nipples? She said, I'm looking at them in binoculars. I said, well, you certainly don't have much to do.
Every time I ride by now, I look up to see if he's up there. And I don't think about those Barbie dolls at the top. I used to think about those Barbie dolls a lot. It really bothered me. But I think that Billy is a guy who wouldn't hurt anybody if you asked him to. I mean, he just wouldn't hurt anybody. I don't think he's out to offend anybody.
I think he's built it and said, this is what I feel and about a lot of things, and I appreciate your thoughts about it, even though you might disagree with me. I don't think he did it. I don't think he did it in order to cause people to disagree or to cause people to agree. I think it's a most unusual statement of who he is.
I kind of assumed it was going to be maybe a little bit religious in maybe an opposite way that would be for me. So to walk up and see that it's friendly to gay people and stuff was actually kind of a breath of fresh air.
I've had people from out of town, from all over this country, saying that if that sculpture was in their community, there would be thousands and thousands of visitors coming by to see about it if it was just promoted properly. You know, Billy's recognized in the artist community or the arts community as being a talented person, and he certainly is.
I do think that people now, there's a lot of people has begun to accept this Mindfield and appreciate the work it does, and he has in his will money set aside to maintain it after he passes away and after he gets old and all. So Billy not only just builds this, he thinks in the future.
It is my idea that as time goes on, it will become appreciated as truly a work of art.
I mean, you can't escape the Mindfield. That's what I guess kind of frustrating about it, but I don't feel irritated by it anymore. Now that I understand it, I definitely understand it. I mean, my heart, I understand when he talks about his dad, because I experienced that as well.
Not many people are able to do that in any sort of, certainly not in any substantial way like Billy has, put it into steel and say, look, these are some thoughts, some concepts, some emotions even that I have felt that I'm able to translate into pieces of steel welded together.
So it's meant a lot to me to have Mindfield here.
It's all about life, I guess, and it's all about enjoying life.
And yeah, I like the Mindfield. He knows I like the Mindfield. He's just gonna have to fix some signs for me.
Well, how have things been with you? Well, I guess they've been fine. I think I know what you're going through. Tell me what's on your mind.
My dad used to say it was a waste of good steel, but he always said Billy was the best welder he ever saw in his entire life.
Well, I've got to say up front, the gentleman who built this, I've got to give him credit for his ingenuity and his skill. For anybody to be able to take down a complete water tower and rebuild it totally by himself, from what I understand, is an amazing feat. I mean, I surely couldn't do it.
It is amazing that one person could assemble all of this.
The ability to build it is simply amazing. He has essentially done it himself, created it, and not only created it, but constructed it. And it's amazing.
I don't know, I was overwhelmed when I walked up into the middle of it, and you realize the scale of it, and that this guy did this just by himself.
Because the average person, almost anybody, would look at that and say, no, there's no way one man could do that. I'd probably be the same way. I'd hate to guess what that thing weighs. But I watched him do part of it when I had the time, and he did it all by himself. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, everything had to be just right, and one man doing all that, it's amazing, totally.
The man's absolutely an engineering genius. I mean, to be able to just do that kind of stuff by himself, I mean, with literally no help. And it's amazing just to watch him swing around that stuff when he works.
I've seen him actually hanging by the, whatever holds him up there, working on it, I mean, day in and night. So he puts a lot of work into it.
Sometimes you drive by the Mindfield and you see Billy up there hanging on a harness. And I asked him when our group toured the Mindfield, I said, have you ever gotten hurt? And he said no. And somebody said, well, isn't it dangerous that you're doing this kind of thing by yourself? You're up that high and you don't even have somebody kind of hanging with you to kind of, you know, something goes wrong. And
the city let him put the fire tower up and told him he couldn't put steps on it because they didn't want anybody climbing up and sitting in the fire tower. Bill said, I wasn't going to use steps anyway. I just swing over there on my crane, and that's what he does now. Okay. So there's no steps there, as the city required.
Okay. I've never seen anybody helping him, handing him a screwdriver or doing anything. I mean, he does it all. I can't stand the heights. I don't see how he does it.
To me, it's an amazing work of metal, sculpture that's been created by one person working by himself. And I know we've got the only water tank in the world that was taken down by one individual, moved here, and reconstructed by one person. And I don't believe there's another water tank in the world that fits that category, and that's why I say Billy Tripp is certainly a talented gentleman.
I mean, he's consulted me just about in every aspect of it to make sure that we're in compliance with local codes and that type of thing. And
he knows building, he knows codes. I mean, the guy's fantastic.
Just the sheer ability, the engineering, the mechanical, the welding ability to put it all together are two great talents.
The tallest piece down here in my work is a large beam. It goes up maybe 125 feet, and I call it my dad's grave marker, although he's not buried here. Down at the bottom of it, I have some words cut out that say, and so now, Billy, begin your life without him. My dad, 2002. It's I get it said in a private language. It doesn't quite translate well. But anyway, I was stuttering to begin my life without him, so I was sort of tripping over the first part of it. And I'd heard that people had postponed coming to terms with the death of a loved one and had gotten through it, so I said, well, that's what I'll do. I'll just do it another time. And that allowed me to take the tank down, and I went up to Kentucky and took it down and brought it home. And I went at it thinking, well, I'm going to use the time frame of putting the tank up to deal with my dad's death. And when I get done with the tank, that's it. I'm not going to, you know, revisit this death in the family again. You know, I don't want to do it forever. And it worked out rather well. And so it was really nice that saying goodbye to Dad, and it grew into also saying goodbye to my mother. And the book turned as well into saying hello to what came after.
I'm sure, knowing Billy and how he thinks and how bright I think he is, I introduced him once as the only certifiable genius in the community that I know. And I know most people in the community.
Some people think he's a nut. He's not a nut. He's a dang genius. And he likes to shock people. That's pretty well it in a nutshell.
The very top of the beam has a oval cut out in it, and I kind of see that as a face. And the beam is like the structure of the body, and the top of the beam has some wild hair stuck out. And he's wearing a little altar headdress on top, but it has arms that come out, and that's where it says "My Dad," and underneath it says so now Billy begin. So to me that's like an abstract figure of a person standing up looking forward, you know. And so that's the story of that.
He is clearly a person of vision. I would say that his vision comes into focus and out of focus, and he tries quite successfully, I think, to maybe say it in a very fine way.
I also put up similar weather vane type pieces that kind of go with like a statement of things. One says, what I have to share, be it through my work, and the other says, what I have to make, be it from what is here. And I like those a lot.
Most folks are afraid to approach Billy. They think Billy's a little eccentric and a little different, and he is. But he's an interesting person. He's a creative person, and he's certainly an intelligent person, and really promotes his community. Everything he does, he promotes his community.
Some people think Billy's crazy. Billy's not crazy, I can tell you that. But Billy's probably one of the sanest people I know.
I got written permission from the city through the city mayor, Webb Banks, to be buried down here. And so I thought I'm going to be cremated and buried, so it's not like a big deal. Well, I thought I'd have my epitaph. That's a good chance to have an epitaph. So one of the pieces I put up recently were the two silhouettes up high that blow in the wind, and they're my silhouettes. One's upright and the other is upside down. And underneath each of them they have some words, and together they make up my epitaph. It starts out on the upright side, kind of talking about life, and it ends where the silhouette is upside down and kind of talking about death. And it says, here I labor to live, acceptingly trading my life for it lived, knowingly for death.
You know, Billy Tripp is a mess. You know, he's eccentric, and he's smart. You know, if you don't think he is, you're the idiot. So.
But some people don't like it out there so much. But this is my only place I have available to talk to myself, and I sometimes regret that it's, and I just end up doing it in a large way, and I sometimes regret that it's so out there that people who don't like to hear it or look at it or to overhear my conversation, they end up partaking in it just by driving by. But this was my only place to start this.
And I've heard several people say, he is the most honest person I have ever met. Now, whether you agree or disagree with his honesty, that's who he is. And I think all of us have the right to be who we are, as long as our rights are not infringing on someone else.
You have to be very, very bright and very, very capable and highly, absolutely, essentially motivated to do something like that.
But he enjoys doing it, and that's what makes him happy, and that's fine with me.
He just lives his life the way he sees fit.
And Billy don't worry too much about money. Money is not a big thing to him. He just kind of does his thing.
It's that he's a mean old man, and he's weird. And I told him Junior's kindest man I ever seen. To me, he's a genius, and he's a legend.
4 or 5 years ago, we had what they called a ride-in or something in the community one Saturday night of every month, where people came on motorcycles to the community. Billy's motorcycle always drew the biggest crowds, I'll say that. And most folks who came to see Billy's motorcycle and see what was new on Billy's motorcycle. But I see Billy out riding, and he's ridden it all over the country, and Billy enjoys it.
If there's anything you want, it's on the truck or the motorcycle. Barbie dolls, feathers, what else, Anna? I mean, everything is on that thing. I mean, it's really different.
There's a lot of obviously there's a lot of offensive material, sexually suggestive material on those motorcycles. But when I saw it, I thought, my goodness, this could be in a modern museum in New York City. I mean, if they knew that this stuff was sitting here, there would be a museum somewhere that would want it. It's amazing. So I was really struck by the motorcycles as well. They're kind of a different kind of art.
His motorcycle is the most atrocious thing I believe I've ever seen. It's got all kinds of things. His truck is to other people is just as bad, but to Billy, they're wonderful. He likes all that stuff, and there's nothing wrong with it.
There in Haywood County is a population somewhere between 18 to 19,000 people. There is somewhere in excess of 100 churches here. And so if you take those two numbers alone, then you know that there are a lot of people here who are deeply religious and very strong in their conviction. If you put a sign in front of them, even though it's your right to do that, if you put a sign in front of them that says Satan saves, you're asking for it.
Bill sometimes will say something to get you to think, and he's written something on his truck, and it says instead of Jesus saves, it says Satan saves. Now, Billy's not a Satanist. He's not at all that type of thing. I asked Bill, I said, why did you put that on your truck? And he said, just to let people know there's an alternate view of things. That's not his view. In other words, that there is another side of the world than the way you think.
But I talked to him one day, and he said, well, sure, Mr. Webb, everybody's afraid they're going to burn in hell, and that's why they go to God. I said, okay, you can. But that's just the way he is. And if you want Billy to be just like all of the rest of us and like to do the same things that we do, you won't understand him.
As long as he's got a place to write something on there, I guess he'll write something on it. When the idea comes to him, he puts it out there.
I mean, it's his vehicle, it's his truck. He drives it where he wants to drive it. There are a lot of other bumper stickers and signs that I see on vehicles that, to me, are far more offensive than that.
On the back of his truck, he has Satan saves. That offends a lot of people, but people are very delicate in what offends them. Get offended very easily. You can just state your own beliefs which contradict theirs, and then just tell them to read their own holy scripture, and they'll become offended very easily.
I had a very religious fellow tell me one time, he said, look, people have a problem with that, but he said most folks are saved when they had the hell scared out of them, so I'd say Satan did save them, or pushed them to be saved. So he said maybe Billy's on to something. You know, Billy's father was a Methodist preacher. He grew up in the church. But Billy is Billy.
There's not a time when the Satan Saves truck drives through Brownsville that Chamber doesn't get 3 or 4 phone calls. Somebody said, Joe, can you not do something about that? I said, no, I can't do nothing about that. I said, you know, it's still America. And I said, you know, I don't like it. And Billy knows I don't like it, but you know, listen, Billy likes to shock people. You know, Billy likes to shock people. So, you know, let him go.
Truly, I'll just say, I guess Thoreau said it probably better. He dances to a different drum. He really does.
Folks, I'm going down to St. James Infirmary to see my baby here, stretched out on a long white table, so sweet, so cold, so fair. Let her go, God bless her, wherever she may be. Message this whole wide world over, she'll never find another sweet man like me.
Luke, I am your father.